Welcome to the deep dive. Today, well, we're plunging into a question that's as old as humanity itself, yet maybe more relevant than ever. Do we truly operate as, rational, independent individuals, making our own choices?
Right.
Or are there unseen forces both deep within us and all around us, constantly shaping our thoughts, our actions, maybe without us even realizing it?
Yeah, that's the core of it. And we're exploring this through the work of Doris Lessing, the Nobel laureate.
Exactly. Our source material today is her incredibly sharp collection of essays, Prisons We Choose to Live Inside.
And our mission in this deep dive is really to unpack Lessing's compelling arguments. She uses these, startling anecdotes to reveal the hidden forces that often drive us.
To have goal being.
The goal is to understand why we so often fail to apply what we actually know about ourselves, which leads us to build, or maybe just inhabit, these self-imposed limitations, these prisons.
It's a powerful thought, isn't it? What if the most formidable prisons we face aren't like brick and steel walls, but ones we choose to live inside? Maybe without even knowing. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
So Lessing kicks things off with this really striking story from old southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, where she grew up. She talks about this highly respected, prosperous farmer. He imports a prize bull from Scotland, a huge investment back then.
Yeah, a fortune.
And this massive bull, supposedly docile, just inexplicably kills its young black keeper.
Awful.
And despite pleas from other farmers, people who knew bulls could just go berserk, and apparently the boy had even been warned.
Yeah.
The farmer was just relentless.
What does he do?
He declared, "The bull has killed, the bull is a murderer, and he must be punished. An eye for an eye." And the bull was executed by firing squad.
Wow, by firing squad.
Mm-hmm.
And Lessing immediately connects this chilling story to another one, right?
Yeah.
The solemn sentencing and execution of a tree in France after World War II for collaborating with General Pétain.
A tree. Seriously. So the insight here, the really chilling part, is how often this kind of awful primitivism, as she calls it, just surges up.
Right.
Even in supposedly enlightened people or groups, it overrides reason. It's like this pullback to, a savage past.
That's disturbing. The bull in the tree, it really hammers home that point about primitivism surging up.
Mm-hmm.
But how does she square that with her other point? That humanity is actually gathering so much knowledge about itself. It feels a bit contradictory.
It does, yeah, and that's exactly Lessing's crucial paradox. She says we're gathering, and very rapidly, too rapidly, to assimilate knowledge about ourselves.
Especially from things like psychology, sociology.
Exactly. The behavioral sciences, she calls them. The ones that look at how we actually behave, not how we think we behave or how we like to behave.
But her frustration is.
Her frustration is palpable. She says very little of this knowledge has been put into effect.
Right?
She even points to a 2,000-year-old Indian book, the Arthasastra by Kautilya, basically an ancient guide to rational statecraft 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. So the call for reason isn't new. But Lessing's point is this persistent, huge gap between knowing what's rational or effective and actually doing it.
And she doesn't hold back on other provocative stuff, especially around war.
No, she doesn't.
She talks about this dreadful public elation that can sometimes precede conflict, coming from an older part of the human brain. She even recalls meeting soldiers in Zimbabwe, black and white, actual combatants.
Right.
And she observed that they thoroughly enjoyed the war. Not the killing, maybe, but the demand for skills like bravery, initiative, resourcefulness, things maybe not used in peacetime.
That can sound really jarring, though, saying they enjoyed the war, given the horror.
Yeah, it's provocative.
It is. But I think Lessing isn't denying the horror. She's pointing out this uncomfortable truth about human adaptability, and maybe the primal satisfaction some find in extreme situations, even terrible ones. It's part of that older brain complexity.
Okay.
And she gives a really stark warning, too, about language, specifically the word blood when used by leaders.
What does she say about that?
She says when you hear that word, it signals that reason is about to depart. It's a regression, she argues, to ancient ideas of ritual sacrifice and scapegoats.
So it raises a big question for us then. Why are we so susceptible? Why do these ancient, powerful appeals sometimes make us just abandon reason?
Exactly. It's another way those self-imposed prisons kind of lock us in,
So, okay, our ancient instincts can hijack reason. What about our modern idea of ourselves, our sense of individuality? Lessing really goes after that too, doesn't she?
Oh, absolutely. Especially the Western idea of being a completely free, independent actor, making purely individual choices.
She calls it a flattering picture.
Right, a flattering picture, but one that leaves us helpless against all kinds of pressures. It's almost like a comforting illusion we cling to.
So what's her fundamental point then?
Her point is that we are basically group animals. We constantly seek belonging. Now, the danger isn't being in a group, she says. It's not understanding the social laws that govern groups and govern us. We join a group for one reason, maybe shared interests, but then our thinking actually changes because we're in that group.
Right, that makes me think of those classic psychology experiments on group conformity.
Exactly, like the Asch experiments.
Yeah, where most people in the room are told to say something obviously wrong, like this short line is longer than that long line, or this blue thing is red. And the one person who isn't in on it, they get exasperated, confused, but eventually often they just fall into line. They doubt their own eyes.
Yeah, they abandon their own accurate perception just to fit in.
And what Lessing does, connecting this to our everyday lives, that's where it gets really interesting. It forces you to think, how often do I do that? Maybe without even noticing.
Right. How many of our daily truths are just things we've agreed on to avoid, rocking the boat? That's a subtle kind of prison wall we build ourselves.
A very subtle one.
And it's incredibly hard, she points out, to hold on to a dissident opinion within a group, even if the group's view is kind of vague or poorly defined.
She uses literary examples for this, right?
Yeah, she talks about the 10-year rule in literature. A writer dies, their work fades out, then suddenly 10 years later, boom, they're back in fashion. Why?
Or the Jean Rhys example.
Exactly. Jean Rhys's older books were ignored for years. Then her new one gets recognition, and suddenly everyone is praising the older stuff too.
So it's like a collective mind following the leader.
Pretty much. Lessing calls it the follow my leader nature of the collective mind. It operates on its own strange logic, often not based on real critical judgment, almost like fashion, but for ideas or artists.
Yeah, that 10-year rule thing or the Jean Rhys surge, it really shows how herd-like we can be. And then Lessing did her own experiment, pushing it even further.
The Jane Summers experiment.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Audacious.
She submitted 2 novels under a fake name, Jane Summers, and her own publishers, the ones who published her main work,
Rejected the first one.
rejected it. And literary experts, people who supposedly knew her style inside out, they completely missed it, didn't recognize her work at all. Until she revealed it was her. And then suddenly, the books were praised.
Exactly. Lessing's own conclusion was pretty blunt.
Yeah.
It revealed our collective reliance on brand names and on packaging.
It's kind of disheartening, isn't it? That quality might matter less than the label.
It is. And this leads her to another powerful concept. Inner censorship.
Inner censorship? What's that?
She observed it in places like the Soviet Union, with its severe external censorship. Over time, people started to internalize those pressures.
So they started censoring themselves.
More than that, attitudes they previously resisted actually became their own deeply held beliefs.
Wow.
So the insight there is profound. We can unconsciously adopt group or societal beliefs, even ones that clash with our own deeper values. It's another subtle way we build prisons inside our own minds.
Okay, so Lessing's shown how easily groups and collective thinking sway us, which leads to a pretty disturbing question. How far can that manipulation actually go?
Right. And her look at the post-Korean War research into brainwashing gives some, well, frankly, frightening answers.
This was research sparked by American soldiers confessing to crimes they didn't commit.
Exactly. And Lessing sees this as a key moment. It generated, in her words, an enormous mass of information about society and how it operates.
What did they find? What were the techniques?
The research basically boiled it down to 3 main pillars. First, tension followed by relaxation keeps someone stressed, then offer relief.
Okay.
Second, repetition, just hammering the same message home over and over.
Makes sense.
And third, using slogans, simplifying complex ideas into catchy, easy-to-repeat phrases.
And Lessing's point is these aren't just like exotic techniques used somewhere else.
Not at all. She emphasizes these are widely used and still are by governments, armies, political parties, religious groups, sometimes very consciously and expertly. It's a kind of blueprint for influencing minds.
The really startling thing she describes, though, is that university experiment.
Yes. That one is truly mind-bending.
Where researchers could take a true believer. I think she uses the example of a Christian scientist.
Right. Someone with very specific beliefs.
And in just a matter of days, convert them through a whole series of opposing ideologies, like Seventh-day Adventist, then Stalinist communist, then liberal, feminist, hardline atheist.
Yeah.
Just completely different worldviews.
And crucially, each new belief was held with absolute conviction. The person was reportedly ready to die for it at each stage.
Before they finally return them to their original faith. It's incredible.
It is. And Lessing's conclusion from this is deeply uncomfortable.
What is it?
She says essentially, every one of us would succumb to techniques like that, unless, she notes, we were suffering from certain types of schizophrenia.
Wait, so being sane makes you more likely to be converted?
That's her chilling point. The more sane we are, the more likely we are to be converted.
No.
It completely shatters that comforting idea that we personally would be immune. Our sanity, our coherence, actually makes us more vulnerable to having our beliefs reshaped.
Wow, okay. And she ties this to politics in her own time.
Yeah, she gives the example of Margaret Thatcher's re-election campaign, using the advertising firm Saatchi & Saatchi.
Right, using sophisticated psychological tricks, calculated phrasing, even the colors Thatcher wore.
Exactly. While, as Lessing puts it, her high-minded socialist opposition disdained those methods. They thought it was beneath them.
And this connects back to that paradox Lessing identified earlier.
Directly. Governments, people in power, they eagerly study and apply this new information about crowd psychology to manipulate people. But as Lessing says, the people who say they oppose tyranny literally don't want to know. They refuse to even study these techniques, which leaves them wide open to being manipulated themselves.
Which creates this huge imbalance, right? The powerful get more powerful because they understand manipulation, and those opposing them don't.
Precisely. It reinforces those prisons of the mind, built by those who understand the tools.
Okay, so after all that, which is pretty sobering, does Lessing offer any hope, any way out of these prisons?
She does, yeah. She shifts perspective a bit.
Yeah.
She wonders if maybe the chaos and the primitive surges we see are actually like a dragging undertow to something positive.
Like a necessary struggle before progress.
Kind of. A forward movement in the human social evolution, she hopes, where a human mind rapidly develops more self-knowledge, self-command. Maybe seeing the prisons helps us find the keys.
That's a hopeful way to put it. Does she see any signs of this?
She did. She pointed to encouraging trends from her time, like several dictatorships. Greece, Portugal, Spain, Brazil, Argentina, choosing democracy.
Showing it's possible to change course.
Exactly. Proving that even imperfect democracies offer the possibility of reform, change. And she talks about the emergence of the idea of individual rights. A new idea, historically speaking, and still very frail, but there, it's a sign that maybe we can choose to open those prison doors.
And she has a surprising point about laughter.
Yes. I love this bit. Laughter is a very powerful thing, she says.
How so?
She mentions researchers finding that people who knew how to laugh resisted brainwashing best. Cites Turks facing torturers with laughter.
Wow.
And she argues that fanatics don't laugh at themselves. For them, laughter is usually cruel, directed outwards. Laughter at oneself, she says, is by definition heretical to the fanatic mindset.
So the ability to laugh at yourself is a sign of freedom.
That's her thought. Only the civilized, the liberated, the free person can laugh at himself. It's like a weapon against dogmatism, against taking ourselves and our group beliefs too seriously.
That's a great insight, a tool against the prison walls.
It really is. And she also redefines the word elite, not as, the rich or powerful,
right,
but as any group of people who, for any reason, are in the possession of ideas that put them ahead of the majority.
So people with foresight or maybe just independent thinkers.
Exactly. It suggests a positive, even vital role for those individuals who resist conformity. They act as a kind of productive ferment in society, showing potential ways out of those mental traps.
Lessing also has strong views on teaching history, doesn't she?
Oh, definitely. She argues it shouldn't just be about dates and events. It should be taught as a laboratory of social change.
A laboratory? How?
Meaning, from history, one may learn not only what has happened, but what may and probably will happen again. Patterns repeat.
Right.
She critiques the lack of interest in history she saw, especially among the young. She suggests maybe they resist it because it shows their new ideas often aren't new at all, they're perennial.
Which might upset their sense of being unique or original.
Exactly. It's almost like our collective forgetting, our amnesia is another kind of self-imposed prison. We keep reinventing the wheel and maybe repeating the same mistakes.
So for Lessing, history and literature too are crucial tools.
Indispensable tools for living, she calls them. They teach us how to be a citizen and a human being. They help foster a calm, cool, critical, and skeptical way of looking at ourselves and society.
And ultimately, it comes down to the individual.
Yes, the ultimate insight for Lessing is that it's the individual in the long run who will set the tone, provide the real development in a society. The individual who works on that self-awareness, who resists those easy mental prisons.
She gives that amazing example of Akhenaten, the Egyptian pharaoh.
Yeah, incredible story. 1,400 years before Christ, he single-handedly overturns this ancient, gloomy state religion.
And imposes a cheerful, monotheistic one instead, just like that.
Just like that. Now, his reign was short, and after he died, the establishment basically erased him, made him a non-person. But his ideas didn't completely die. They resurfaced centuries later, influencing figures like Freud, Thomas Mann. It's proof, Lessing suggests, that one single, brave individual can challenge the whole massive machinery and plant seeds for a different way of thinking.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Doris Lessing's Prisons We Choose to Live Inside, her message really hits home, doesn't it?
It really does.
That feeling of being controlled by outside forces, well, Lessing argues many of our tightest prisons are actually self-imposed.
Built from our unconscious biases, the massive pressure of groupthink, and maybe that deep-down craving we have for certainty, for easy answers.
And she leaves us with a challenging vision, right? For a society that values what?
A society that would do everything possible to produce such individuals. People who deliberately cultivate their own way of thinking, who can stand against group pressure, who value that independent thought.
But she's realistic. She says governments won't teach this.
No. So it falls to parents, schools, independent groups of adults. It's up to us, really, to take on that vital task of fostering critical self-awareness.
So the challenge to you, listening now, reflecting on Lessing's insights, what resonates with your own thinking, your own experiences? Can you identify any potential prisons you might be choosing to live inside, maybe without fully realizing it?
Yeah. And maybe what small steps could you take? How could you start looking at yourself and the world around you with that cool, serious, dispassionate gaze that Lessing champions?
What stands out to you?